Hello, and welcome to our channel, Black Cloud Travels. My name is Doris. Today we are traveling from Dawson City Yukon to Toke, Alaska. Here you see us on the Yukon River, and we are crossing it on the George Black Ferry. Unknown to us, we suffered a major mishap on this ferry, which we weren't made aware of until we reached Yukon, Alaska. But we'll talk more about that later. We'd spent the last 3 nights at the Gold Rush campground in Dawson City. I would highly recommend this campground. It's very close to all the sites. Walk, shop, go to a restaurant, and it's a very pretty town. Also, the Gold Rush campground is very well maintained, and they have the best laundry room ever. During our 3-day stay at the Gold Rush campground, we'd heard lots of stories about crossing the Yukon River on the George Black Ferry. We were told again and again that the waiting lines are very long and it's best to leave very early. And so we did. Frank and I were up at 6 in the morning. We were ready to leave camp at 6:30, and we were reaching the site of the ferry about 5 minutes later. It was a very short ride. Much to our delight, there was less than half a dozen cars there, and I think we were maybe 3rd or 4th in line. So this was pretty good. We got a good start, and this makes for a good day. So here we are on the top of the World Highway. Now, I've read that it was chip sealed in the late 1990s, but the chip seal was not maintained, and so as of about 2013 it just started to crumble into gravel. And yeah, it's a bumpy ride. One of the things that really amazed me about driving on the top of the World Highway was watching how the scenery changed. And you'll notice that if you pay attention. Right along here, you can see that there aren't too many trees. They don't grow very tall. Keep in mind, the tree line is somewhere about, at one point you won't see any trees at all. And of course, the tree line is the point where trees can no longer grow because of the harsh conditions in the winter. Now, if you look to the bottom left-hand corner of our windshield, you will see that we have a circular crack that was put there as we finished off the last 10 kilometers on the Dempster Highway in Yukon. We have caught this on film, and if you want to see what happened, it's in the previous episode to this. It should be. Now, fortunately, the crack was not in Frank's line of vision, so there was no problem there. We could just continue on. But next time we may not be so lucky. As for the rest of the windshield, we do apologize for the bugs, but we did the best we could. We could not find the squeegee. Now, you may be wondering as you're watching this, where is the wildlife? And to be honest, we did not see any wildlife on the Canadian portion of this highway. I think we might have seen some moose. We went into Alaska, but they disappeared very quickly. And I'm kind of glad we didn't see any wildlife here. I wish them well and hope that they were far away, safe, away from the cars, away from the tourists. As you can see, we are enjoying very good weather as we travel the top of the World Highway. And I was very grateful because you want to see what you're driving through. I was anticipating some wonderful sights, being so high, and of course I was looking forward to seeing Alaska. Now, the top of the World Highway begins as you leave Dawson City and cross the Yukon River. And once you've landed on the other side, the top of the World Highway begins. And it's 90 some odd miles long. It's not very long indeed, but it is arduous because there are virtually no paved roads. The only paved roads that we encountered was around the border, the Canadian-US border. Now, this being the unfortunate year 2020, the borders are closed to all traffic. You cannot cross the border. And so the top of the World Highway was closed down this year, and I find that most unfortunate. Hopefully it'll be back up and running next year. Now we are traveling in a 25-foot C-class camper. And as difficult as this highway was for us, I cannot imagine how much more difficult it was for those driving the really big rigs. Now, this highway was introduced to us on YouTube by the Motorhome Experiment and also Less Junk, More Journey. Those are both excellent YouTube channels, and I highly recommend for you to check them out. They traveled on this highway and vlogged it, and we watched and we learned. Still, as I'm watching this footage, I can only say, boy, if I only knew then what I know now. Because if you look sometimes to the left and the right, you'll see what is known as pullouts, and this is where you can go and camp for the night, free of charge. You just have to find yourself a spot and hunker in and just enjoy your time. But of course, that's not how it always goes. I don't know why, but we were in a hurry to get to Alaska. Maybe we were nervous about the border, just wanted to get through it. But some of these pullouts have some wonderful vistas, and if I were to do that again, I would spend at least 3 or 4 days traveling this road. As you can see, there's very little traffic on the road. We were pretty early in the season. This is the end of June, and we were very fortunate that we had such a empty road to travel on. There isn't much of a soft shoulder. If you've got problems, you're blocking the little traffic that there is. So here we're coming up on one of the major views on the top of the World Highway, and we're very, very high, and A lot of the drop-offs were on my side of the car, some were on Frank's. And I remember once looking over the side, and all you could see were the velvety tufts of the trees way down below, and I almost felt like passing out. It was terrifying to know that there was very little separating you from the edge of the cliff, and you have to be really, really wary of that space. So here we have stopped to walk Bob, stretch our legs. Frank was joined by some fellow travelers as he walked Bob, and they chatted a bit. They were in the blue car as we traveled the Yukon River on the George Black Ferry. Now that is snow that we are passing on the left. The temperatures were in the 60s, but that high up, it takes a long time for all the snow to melt. Now coming up on the right, we are reaching the highest point of the top of the road highway, and if you look, we are going to pass by that little blue car that was in front of us on the ferry and that joined us for a chat along the road. Here we have paved surface and we are on the way to the border. We're not very far away indeed. So pretty soon we're going to come up to a little green sign that says Alaska border, and that is where we are headed. There you go. Now this sign says, "We stand together in support of highway safety." Poker Creek, Alaska, most northerly land border in the USA, population 3. Now this is an interesting story. You see that A-class in front of us? That was at the border, and we followed him for quite a while before we crossed the border. And oddly enough, once we crossed the border and started getting into the more challenging roads, and yeah, the most challenging roads were in Alaska, this last little stretch. Once we started experiencing those, he pulled over and we never saw him again, and we stopped a couple of times and he never passed us, so we could only imagine that he maybe turned around. So there you go. Not only has the scenery changed now that we're in Alaska, but you'll see that the roads are so much more difficult. There is a lot of hairpin turns here and a lot of washboarding and bumps. Okay, now if you'll recall, I did mention earlier in this video that there was an unfortunate event that happened as we were on the George Black Ferry. Now, what had happened was, as we were getting off the ferry, there was a very low dip. And we heard something just kind of eke a little bit, but it seemed okay. So we kept driving. Nobody was waving at us. The car was driving. And off we went. And so we noticed nothing until we reached Yukon, Alaska. And Yukon, Alaska is not even a town, it's more of an outpost. And that's where the top of the world highway kind of dumps you. And this consists of a very nice gift shop in the middle of nowhere, a place to buy some gas, a place to have some lunch. And I think maybe there's 20 some odd people residing in that area at any one time. So we got to Yukon, Alaska, and we pulled over, and I was looking forward to some happy shopping. I was in a good mood, and I was looking forward to seeing what I could find. Now, Frank was the first one out of the truck, and he did a bit of a walk around, and as I'm getting ready to get out of the truck, he comes to the window and he says, basically, we're screwed. And then he goes on to explain that we've lost our black tank. Now, the black tank is what holds the sewage. And when I heard him say that, I was in shock. I mean, what happened? How did this happen? Where did this happen? So he did a visual inspection, and the pipes were gone and the black tank was nowhere to be seen. So what were we to do? Well, the truth is, what can you do? The truck itself was still drivable, which we were grateful for. And so, like the crack in the windshield, you just start driving and hope for the best. Okay, so to sum things up, we kind of damaged the black tank as we were getting off the ferry. There were cars behind us, so obviously we didn't lose anything, otherwise they would have been impeded from driving. And I believe that we lost the black tank itself once we hit the Alaska roads, because they were very bad, and we did notice a truck stopping behind us suddenly, and the driver kind of veering off as if something was in its way. So there is a picture of our camper before we lost it. You can see the pipe, the valve, and that was gone entirely. Construction. Boy, did we see a lot of it in Alaska. I guess for every 20 minutes you drive, you've got to wait 5-10 minutes to cross yet another construction zone. But you know what? They were doing their best to keep the highway intact. God knows it needed work. And actually we learned that it was a nice way to kind of just stop and enjoy the scenery. So I'm happy to report that I was able to do a little shopping in Yukon. It wasn't the happiest of shopping trips, mindful of the blow that we've just been dealt. But I did pick up some t-shirts and sweatshirts. I picked up the obligatory pins and patches and bumper stickers, and it was all good. I knew we'd never be back, so why not? So here we are in Toke, Alaska, and this is Fast Eddie's, where they serve really good pizza. Next door they have a motel, and unfortunately they didn't accept dogs, so we had to move on and find another motel. And we enjoyed our pizza that night. There we go. Next you're going to see me and Bob, happy. And looking forward to what the next couple of days are going to unfold. Here we've got our camper peeking in through the window, and then we've got Bob all passed out as we watch Blue Hawaii. So I'd like to thank you for joining us. Please join us again.